Coach, before we get to what the expectations are on the field this season, let's talk about the field itself. You guys got a nice practice facility over there these days, nice turf in there. Tell us, for those that don't know, how that came to be.
Well, a few years ago, we had some discussions when they were doing the initial capital campaign, and that's when the lights kind of came about. Had it kind of, would you rather pursue lights or turf? And I didn't think there was any chance we'd be able to have both, and I felt like at the time lights would save us the most practice because we were losing, during the week you play a 7th and 8th grade game or a JV game or a freshman game, you'd lose practice time because we just had to run field and get dark so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then wasn't but a year or two later they came forward and mentioned that there was a possibility that we could get turf, and it turned around pretty quick. They had it finished by 1st of June.
How much of a difference does that make for the players? I mean, I know they're probably used to playing on it because the other fields that Inlow's got it, and all the high schools now in town do have turf fields. So there probably wasn't a lot of adjustment, was there?
No, when the turf fields first went in around town, and I guess they're starting, is this going to be their 6th year, I think? Is that right?
I'll take your word for that. That sounds good.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
9 season. But I tell you, everybody was kind of nerved up. Well, everybody, maybe us in Mater Dei and Castle, about having to go play on turf and not being on it all the time. But, today you don't really think much about it. I don't really notice much difference from going from turf to grass. They wear the same cleats. The one thing about the turf is obviously the advantage you have if it rains. It doesn't affect the game near as much as it would if it was a natural surface. But
right.
The one thing, it gives us a nice surface, and the maintenance for our coaching staff has dropped dramatically.
Well, that's the thing too, Coach. With the maintenance, I've said it before, and I'll always say it. When the EVSC put the turfs in the fields, that was one of the better moves they made. One of the main reasons, you can play soccer on it. The bands can practice. That was always a thing when I was in school. I don't know if it still was up to the time that the fields got turf, but football coaches never wanted the bands on the field because they tear it up. And, you got to play games and everything else. So the band and the football program would argue and bicker all the time. Well, now too, with the turf is, like you said, the maintenance side of it. It's an initial investment. If I remember right, it's about $600 to $750,000 or something to put turf in, but it pays for itself in the long run, does it not? With not having to mow the grass and line the field for JV and freshman games and things like that.
Well, I don't know if it paid for itself, but when you think about the fact that it was donated, it's definitely going to pay for itself now because you lose any of those, the watering bill alone, water, fertilizer, we were pretty fortunate. We had a gentleman that mowed our field and did most of that stuff for years, and volunteered doing it. And then the last couple of years, that kind of fell back on the coaching staff to making sure, a lot of schools go through that. But painting the field and mowing the field and trying to get that between practices and classes and games, that was a challenge. And, the only thing you have with it now is there enough hours in the day to get everybody that wants to be on it on them.
We're talking with Memorial High School head football coach John Hurley, preparing to open this 2015 season this Friday night. Coach, you come off a 4-6 season last year, struggled a little bit. You open against a tough Jasper football team in Jasper, not an easy place to play for nobody. But you've got, now I know experience-wise at quarterback, which is a big deal, and you've got that with Will Durkholz coming back. Let's talk a little bit about some other names that we're going to hear this season in the skill positions and on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, I tell you, we got Peyton Head, who's coming back, was probably our leading touchdown receiver last year, and he should be a strong force for us this year. It's going into his junior year, and he's really had a strong summer in opening a camp here. Drew Parker is our running back this year, and he's not a name anybody'd recognize. He's going to be a junior, but he's a tough kid. If there's one thing he's going to do, he's going to compete. And as far as other receivers, Alex Eberhardt has come out. He played in 8th grade and hadn't played for a while. Basketball has been what he's been focusing on, and he had an opportunity to catch a couple touchdowns. He had one in the Castle scrimmage, and I think he's really going to grow as the year goes on as far as understanding how to play the game. But, a big plus for us is going to be with Will Berkos at quarterback. We do have a senior, the only senior, well, Alex is a senior, and then Elliott Rising is going to be playing kind of a tight end inside receiver for us. And we'll have a sophomore, Matt Kiesel, who was the freshman quarterback last year, and he's going to be playing a slot receiver for us. So, we got a nice group. I tell you, the one thing I was excited about with the scrimmage, watching us play, is we didn't have a lot of drop balls, and we've had a little bit of the drops here in the last few years where we dropped quite a few balls, and our completion percentage wasn't where it needed to be. To me, that's a mental toughness issue, and hopefully that's something we improve on as the year goes on, because there's one thing you can't have against Jasper is drops, because we kind of see drops as more along the lines of a mental mistake.
Memorial Coach John Hurley, our guest. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 online, ESPNEvansville.com. Let's flip over, Coach, to the defensive side of the ball. Give us some names, some guys you're looking at that should make some impacts this season.
Well, a guy that should stand out for us from the get-go is Jackson Jones. He's a inside linebacker for us. He led the conference last year in tackles. He's coming back as a senior. So, it's as good as having a quarterback on the defense. And Brandon Warren returns on the defensive line, and so that he'll be back for his senior season. After that, most of the guys you're going to hear defensively are going to be somewhat new names, or guys that were kind of part-time players last year. Hayhurst, who played offensive tackle and some tight end actually last year, he's going to be one of the other inside linebackers. And Marcus DeHagen is going to be a defensive lineman that also returns for us. But after that, we've got some guys that are competing for positions, and there'll be some new names floating around for us. We converted Reeser Wells from a receiver to a corner, and Dayon Groves will come back. This will be his third season playing at corner. He'll probably, hopefully, pick up the slack on punt return and kickoff return for us as well.
As Jimmy mentioned when we got started, that you guys come off that 4-6 season last year. What was the message to the team this year as camp opened up and you start to get ready for the opener coming up Friday night?
Well, we look back at the last 3 years really, and felt like there was a lot of games that we were in late and just came up short in the fourth quarter. And then some games we came up a lot shorter than others, but. I was trying to think. Last year, Jasper, we got the lead at I think it was the end of the first quarter, but by the time we go in at half, we're down, I think it was 21-7 at that point, or 24-7 at that point. And it was a mistake after mistake, and we just couldn't recover. So a focus for us this year has kind of been on mental toughness. We're going to control what we can control. And if something doesn't go the way we want it to go, we got to get back up the way we were, with the enthusiasm and excitement you started the game with, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs through the course of a football game.
Well, you got Jasper coming up this weekend, Coach. Not an easy way to open the season, but it's not the first time you've done that either. You've played them to open the season for a little while. We have, but it's been a little lopsided here since 2004. Yeah, well, again, that's never a softie. So some coaches, I don't know, college, they're even getting away from the opening games against Appalachian State and things like that. So you might as well come out of the chute running. But what are some of the keys to the game here against Jasper? I know you haven't had a chance to see them, but you got an idea of what they're returning from last year and different things. What are some of the keys to the game Friday night?
Well, they're definitely going to play a physical style of football, and you can compare Jasper a little bit to Wrights and the way they play the game. They have the ability to spread you out, but if in doubt, they're going to load everybody back up in the box and come right after you and see if you can stop them. And, the challenges of going up there to play, and we're a little bit young, but, it's a hostile environment. You got a locker room. It's probably one of the toughest locker room setups in southern Indiana as far as playing, especially in August, because it's a cinder block building with no windows, and it's about big enough to get 25 kids into it. And, there's once you get there, you're going to be in the heat until the game's over. And those are things that kids kind of get caught up with because you got to divide them up. You got to be outside, and you don't get to control the environment before the game as far as for them to be able to mentally focus the way that they normally would when we're playing in the city, to where we can go from our place and go there and play. Those are just little challenges. So mentally getting the kids ready to go, and then once you get into the game, staying in the flow of the game, protecting the football. I mean, there's no complicated formula. You're just going to have to block better, tackle better, and protect the football better than they do.
That's Memorial High School coach John Hurley joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 and online, ESPNEvansville.com. Coach, best of luck Friday night against Jasper and throughout the regular season.
Thank you very much.